I was standing there in the living room, gripping her phone tight, my chest thumping with fury, glaring at texts that smashed every bit of certainty I'd ever had. She'd typed out, "I'm way too gorgeous to be stuck like this, bold as you please." This woman, someone I'd poured my life into, given up so much for, and loved with every fiber of my being, had turned me into nothing more than a handy ATM, a means to bankroll her fantasies while she chased thrills on the side. Right then and there, it hit me like a ton of bricks. I was done. No more of this crap, I'd had it. I wasn't about to keep playing her fallback guy, so I told her to get out and started taking my life back, piece by piece. Now, before I get too deep into spilling all this, drop a comment below and tell me where you're tuning in from. Oh, and if you're hooked on this mess of a story, hit that subscribe button and smack the notification bell so you don't miss the next wild chapter. Over at the coffee shop, it was alive with the chatter of college kids, the espresso machines humming like a soundtrack to the chaos. I, Lucas, was hovering near the counter, feeling out of place, clutching my welcome packet like a lifeline, my eyes darting over the menu as if it'd clue me in on how to make it through my first year. I just settled on grabbing a plain black coffee when a little bump snapped me out of my daze. "Oh man, I'm so sorry," this voice chirped, smooth and sure, like she owned the room. "No big deal," I mumbled, trying to play it cool while I dabbed at the coffee now splattered across my packet. "Hold up, let me grab you a fresh one," she said, already striding to the counter before I could even get a word in edgewise. She came back and handed me a new cup. "Hey, I'm Amelia," she introduced herself, her eyes twinkling like she was sizing me up in the best way, though my buddies just call me Amelia. "Lucas," I shot back, feeling my face heat up a little. "Appreciate the coffee, thanks." She propped herself against the counter, locking eyes with me like she wasn't letting go. "Alright, Lucas, what's your major?" "Software engineering," I answered, half expecting her to yawn at how basic it sounded. "What about you?" "Fashion design," she said with this sly grin, like she knew it'd knock my socks off. "I'm aiming to be a big-shot designer someday, or at least that's the grand plan." I let out a shaky laugh. "That's some gutsy ambition, I'm into it." "Your turn," she said, tipping her head a bit. "What's your big dream?" Maybe not splashing coffee on anybody else today," I tossed out, and her laugh, man, it felt like I just scored a point. Right there, with the smell of coffee swirling around and the buzz of fresh starts in the air, something clicked for me, a little glow of hope that cut through my usual low-key vibe. The wedding. It was straight out of a storybook. Fairy lights twinkled overhead, mason jars stuffed with wildflowers lined the place, and an acoustic guitar strummed softly in the background. I was up at the altar, heart hammering away, when Amelia floated down the aisle in this lacy gown, looking like every dream I'd ever had rolled into one, bold, elegant, and all mine. Our eyes locked, and she flashed me this tiny, clever smile, like she was whispering, "We've got this, you and me." That day was pure magic, like time just stopped and the rest of the world didn't matter. Caught up in the bliss of it all, I leaned close during our first dance and murmured, "I still can't wrap my head around calling you my wife." She gave a soft little chuckle, resting her head on my shoulder. "Well, you'd better get used to it," she teased back, "because this is only the start." And she wasn't kidding. Those first few years together were packed with late-night giggles, deep talks, and big plans for what lay ahead. Amelia dove headfirst into her gig as a social media influencer, hell-bent on carving out her spot in the world. She'd spend hours fiddling with posts, snapping pics, and hobnobbing with industry folks. Me? I was her biggest fan, always stoked to see that fire in her come alive. "Check you out, snagging deals left and right." I hollered one night, grinning while all that was going on. I found some peace in the steady climb of my job as a software engineer. I'd put in crazy long hours, but if Amelia needed me, I'd drop it all in a heartbeat, no questions asked. Her drive blew me away. I was all in on her dreams, even if I sometimes caught myself wondering if her big plans left any space for the chill, quiet times we used to have. Still, what we had felt rock solid, like nothing could shake it. But just like those fragile fairy lights from our wedding, that warm glow from the early days started to dim, and I could feel the first little fractures creeping in. It didn't hit all at once, it was more like a slow fade, the way the ocean pulls back and you don't notice how far it's gone, till it's too late. I started picking up on it during our date nights, just me and her. Those cozy dinners we used to linger over turned into her fussing over camera angles and lighting like it was a full-time job. "Hey, hold this for me," she'd say, shoving a ring light my way. I'd go along with it, watching my food get cold while she struck poses for that perfect pic. "Alright, one more shot," she'd promise, but that one always stretched into 20 or more. Vacations? Man, they got even rougher. I'd pictured us wandering new spots together, hand in hand, soaking it all in. Instead, Amelia turned every trip into a stage for her next post, every beach, every mountain, just props for her content. We'd be at some killer sunset, and instead of kicking back with me, she'd be setting up these over-the-top photo shoots. "Do you even see this view?" I asked her once, eyeing her glued to her phone. "Sure I do," she shot back, not even glancing up, "I'm putting it out there for my followers." Then the Fit Queens rolled in, her new crew from the gym, all loud, wild, and living like rules didn't apply. At first, I figured they were just a fun little quirk in her growing circle, no harm done. But man, their vibe started rubbing off quick. Our nights together. They flipped into her staying out late, coming home smelling like tequila and some cheap perfume that stung my nose. "Oh, just a girl's night," she'd brush it off, flicking away my quiet worries like they were nothing. I kept trying to trust her. God, I wanted to believe the woman I married was still in there somewhere, but those cracks were getting wider by the day. One night, I caught her voice slipping through the bedroom walls while she was on the phone. "He's okay, just kinda dull sometimes." I stopped dead. Dull. That word sliced through me, cold and jagged, bouncing around in my head. Is she talking about me? Is that me she's trashing? My brain went into overdrive, replaying her laughs, the tequila stink, all those little moments piling up. Doubt started creeping in like an uninvited guest, settling in next to this gnawing unease I couldn't shake. Holding on to trust was starting to feel like gripping water, it just kept slipping away. The house was dead quiet, except for the shower running in the background like some eerie soundtrack. I was perched on the edge of the bed, staring down Amelia's phone on the nightstand, my heart thumping so loud I could hear it in my ears. I didn't want to snoop, hell, I didn't want to think the suspicions chewing at me for weeks had any weight. But her late nights, that phone always stuck to her hand, the way she'd laugh off my concerns, it all piled up, till I couldn't take it anymore. My shaky fingers grabbed the phone, her passcode was still the same old one. When the screen flicked on, guilt stabbed me hard, but this rush of resolve washed it out fast. I swiped into her messages, thumbing past the boring day-to-day stuff, until I hit a group chat labeled, "Fit Queens Unite." What I saw next slammed me like a fist to the stomach. The screen was littered with jabs at me, calling me boring, too wound up, tearing me down like it was a game. "He doesn't even catch on," one text snickered, paired with those damn laughing emojis. "You deserve way more, girl, live it up," another one egged her on. My hand clenched the phone tighter, my breathing getting short as I kept scrolling. Then bam, there it was, flirty little notes from some dude named Connor. My chest squeezed tight reading their private jokes, their meet-up plans, and a pic of Amelia in that black dress she wore last week, not dirty, but cozy enough to make it crystal clear. "He's totally clueless," she'd texted that very night. "I'm too gorgeous to be locked down like this." Everything in my head just started spinning like a damn tornado. I let the phone slip out of my hand onto the bed and pressed my palms into my face, fighting to catch a breath that wouldn't come easy. How the hell could she talk like that about me, about what we had? I choked out to myself. Meanwhile, she was out there somewhere, tossing her hair back like some carefree dreamer gazing at a gloomy sky, totally checked out from what she'd done. My brain was running a mile a minute, grasping at straws, any excuse, any reason to pretend this wasn't real, but those words stared back at me, cold and brutal, cutting right through any chance I'd misread it. My gut twisted up as I muttered under my breath, this is who she's turned into, the woman I poured my whole soul into. I wanted to yell my lungs out, chuck that phone straight into the wall, but my body wouldn't budge, I was stuck. My shaky hands grabbed it again, snapping screenshots of those damn texts. I didn't have a plan yet, but I knew I needed something solid to hold on to. The shower clicking off snapped me out of it like a gunshot. I fumbled to slap the phone back on the nightstand, my pulse pounding so hard I thought I'd lose it, just sitting there like a statue. Amelia strolled out, humming some little song, towel wrapped around her like it was any other night, and I couldn't even lift my eyes to meet hers. Night, she tossed out, all breezy like nothing was wrong. I flopped back on the bed, staring up at the ceiling, feeling this crushing weight of betrayal and hurt pressing down on me. It was clear as day now, the girl I'd loved with everything, the one I'd said, I do, to, she was gone, swapped out for some stranger I didn't even know anymore. The living room was barely lit, just a weak glow from the streetlight sneaking in, throwing long shadows all over the walls. I stood by the couch, arms locked tight across my chest, those screenshots burned into my brain like a bad tattoo. My jaw was clenched so hard it ached, listening to her humming down the hall, acting all light and happy while a storm was raging inside me. She walked in, eyes still glued to her phone, and I sliced through the quiet with, tell me why Connor thinks he can message you like that. She stopped dead, that smile dropping off her face like a rock. What are you going on about? She shot back, her tone all cagey now. Oh, you know damn well what I mean, I said, digging my phone out of my pocket. Take a look at these. I shoved it at her, the screen flashing those guilty-as-hell texts right in her face. Her eyes got wide, and she stepped back like I'd swung at her. You snooped through my phone, she barked, her voice climbing with disbelief. Privacy, huh? I let out a laugh, sharp and bitter, dripping with sarcasm. You're crying about privacy when you've torched our trust, Amelia, the one thing holding all this together. Her face went white, and she stumbled over her words, Lucas, hold on, it's not what it looks like, those are just dumb jokes. Jokes. I snapped, my voice shaking with how pissed I was. You call trashing me as boring, laughing at me with your pals, and setting up dates with Connor a joke. What, you think I'm an idiot? Her tough act started crumbling, turning into this desperate plea. I can clear this up, no way, I cut her off, hard and fast. You don't get to spin this. I've busted my ass backing you up, believing in you, and this, I waved at the phone, this is the thanks I get? Tears welled up in her eyes, but I wasn't buying it anymore. Lucas, please, she whispered, voice cracking, it was a screw-up, I didn't mean it to go this far. Enough, I said, ice cold now. You didn't mean to get busted, that's the real story, right? She edged closer, hand reaching for me, but I stepped back, done with it. My voice leveled out, firm as steel. Go pack your stuff, Amelia, you're out of here tonight. Her jaw dropped, tears spilling down her cheeks. You're not serious, Lucas, come on, we can work this out. Nah, I said, not budging an inch. You've already wrecked us, I'm through. I yanked a suitcase from the hall closet and started tossing her things in, one after another. She just stood there, frozen, her crying filling up the empty space between every thud of her stuff hitting the bag. Every piece I stuffed into that suitcase felt like hammering another nail into the grave of what we used to be. Lucas, she sobbed out, her voice breaking, I love you. I stopped for a split second, my back still to her, just letting that hang in the air. Then, slow as hell, I slid my wedding ring off and set it down on the counter with a quiet clink. I turned around, locking eyes with her, mine cold and set like stone, and said, you don't get to throw that word at me anymore. Once I'd crammed the last of her stuff in, I whipped out my phone and called an Uber. Go crash at your mom's place, I told her, my voice flat as a board. I'll ship the rest of your junk later. The car pulled up a few minutes after, and there she was, Amelia, clinging to that suitcase, tears pouring down her cheeks. "Lucas, please, don't do this," she begged, voice all shaky. I didn't say a word back. Deep down, under all that hurt, something else was stirring, a tiny spark of freedom, faint but real as hell. This wasn't the happy ending I'd pictured, but damn if it wasn't the one I needed right then. The next morning, after she was gone, I sat at the dining table, hands wrapped around a hot mug of coffee, steam curling up in the air. The quiet in the house hit me weird. It was strange but freeing, like I could finally hear myself think without Amelia's non-stop whirlwind clogging up my head. I flicked through those screenshots on my phone, though, and this slow burn of anger started bubbling up under my skin. This whole mess wasn't done with me yet, not by a long shot. By the time the clock hit mid-morning, I'd lined up a meeting with a lawyer. Sitting there in his fancy office, all cushy chairs and polished wood, I spilled it all, the screenshots, the group chats, those flirty little notes with Connor. The guy, cool-headed and sharp as a tack, just nodded while he sifted through the pile of proof I'd brought. "This is airtight," he said, dropping the papers back on his desk with a satisfied nod. "We've got plenty here to lock down your stuff and make a rock-solid case. With how she's been acting in all her online stunts, she's got no leg to stand on." A little wave of relief washed over me. Finally, after years of mopping up her disasters, she'd have to deal with the fallout herself. Meanwhile, Amelia went running back to her old standby, social media. Her Instagram turned into this dramatic showcase, every post more over the top than the last. One shot had her gazing out a window all dreamy-like, captioned, "When love turns into a cage, you've gotta break free." Another was her with mascara streaked down her face, tagged, "Hurt but still standing." At first, her fans ate it up, flooding her with likes and sappy comments. But as days ticked by, holes started poking through her sob story. Me staying quiet said more than any rant could, and folks began sniffing out the truth. One comment jumped out under her latest pity party: "Didn't you step out on him, though? How about owning up instead of pointing fingers?" More piled on, and the whole thing flipped. Sponsors bailed on the down low, and her die-hard followers started peeling away. Her big play to paint herself as the wounded one blew up in her face, big time. Heading into the court date, I felt this steady calm settle over me. My lawyer had me prepped like a pro, and the stack of evidence I'd piled up was bulletproof. Still, stepping into that courtroom that morning, my stomach was doing flips. Amelia was over there on the other side, looking like a shadow of herself. No more of that bold, shiny influencer glow. She was pale, beat down by the internet hate and money troubles. I couldn't muster up any sympathy. This was her mess, start to finish. She built this shaky ground, now she'd have to stand on it alone. The whole court thing went quick and clean, like a surgical cut. The proof was a slam dunk, those message screenshots, her wild spending records, and all the dumb stuff she'd plastered online for the world to see. Her lawyer tried spinning her as some poor, misjudged soul, but that fell flat as hell. When the judge dropped the final word, I felt this heavy load just lift right off me. I kept the house, my savings stayed safe, and Amelia walked away with barely her car and a measly bank account to her name. She threw me this look as the ruling came down, part pissed, part stunned, maybe a hint of regret in there, but I didn't bother staring back. That I just gave my lawyer a quick nod and strolled out of that courtroom, my heart feeling lighter than it had in forever. The days after that were like walking into a whole new chapter of my life. I started taking back my house, packing up all the leftover bits of Amelia's world, those ring lights she obsessed over, stacks of delivery boxes from her shopping sprees, and heaps of workout clothes she'd never even worn. The place ended up feeling kinda bare, but man, it was fresh, like a clean canvas ready for whatever I wanted to make of it. Meanwhile, Amelia's life was spinning out like a car with no brakes. She tried leaning hard into this "I'm my own woman" vibe, throwing up inspirational quotes and pitching some self-love angle, but the internet's got a long memory. Her old screw-ups kept popping up to bite her. Her sponsor gigs dried up, her followers bailed in droves, and all her frantic grabs at staying relevant just flopped. I kept an eye on it from way off in the distance, not bothering to get involved. Honestly, I didn't have a damn thing left to prove. While she was floundering around, I was already picking up speed, heading somewhere better. With the divorce finally in the rearview, I turned the focus on me for once. I hit the gym again, not to impress anybody, just to clear my head and feel good. Every weight I lifted, every mile I clocked on the treadmill, it was like I was putting more space between me and the guy I used to be with Amelia, stuck under her thumb, sinking in her mess. My job turned into this solid lifeline too. Without all her drama pulling me every which way, I threw myself into work and landed a promotion that didn't just pump up my ego, it was proof of the steady ground I'd clawed to keep. I even started reaching out to buddies I'd lost touch with while I was married. One night, over a round of beers, my best pal Ben hoisted his glass and said, "Here's to Lucas, free, grinning, and finally chill." I tapped my glass against his, cracking a little smile. Man, those words hit home like they hadn't in ages. Looking back on it all, I could see the whole ride for what it was, a rough, tangled-up stretch that I had to go through. I'd loved Amelia for real, no question, but that betrayal cut just as deep. Now, standing clear of it, I figured out the real win wasn't the courtroom victory or watching her fake front fall apart, it was grabbing my life back and finding out I had the guts to start over. The road ahead was mine to take, and for the first time in years, it looked wide open and bright. All that noise and heartbreak. It was history now, and I could feel this heavy load finally sliding off my back. These days, I'd wake up every morning with this calm vibe, not that old knot of dread twisting me up. The house used to be jammed with Amelia's junk and her constant demands, but now it was peaceful, all neat and squared away. It wasn't just the rooms I'd taken back, it was my headspace too. I dove into looking after myself with this fire I didn't even know I had in me. The gym turned into my go-to spot, not some punishment zone, but a place to build myself back up, one rep at a time. Every rep I cranked out, every mile I pounded on that treadmill, felt like a little win I could tuck in my pocket. My muscles were getting tougher, sure, but my headspace was leveling up too. With every bead of sweat that hit the floor, I was shaking off the sourness and grudges that had been sticking to me like glue for way too long. Hooking back up with my old crew brought this happiness I hadn't tasted in years, it was like coming home. One night, over some grub, Ben lifted his beer with a big ol' grin and said, "Here's to calm and quiet." I chuckled, tapping my glass against his, and shot back, "Nah, to fresh starts." Those words hit me harder than I thought they would. It wasn't just a casual cheers, it was me staking a claim. I was done bending and breaking for anybody, now I could build my life how I damn well pleased, no fights, no trade-offs. Taking off on my own to travel opened my eyes in a whole new way. I threw some stuff in a bag and hit the road, chasing down spots I'd always wanted to check out. No cameras, no fake poses, just me and the wide open world. One early morning in this little mountain town, I sat there watching the sun peek over the hills, and it clicked deep down, I didn't need somebody else to feel whole. I'd spent so long handing my joy over to someone else to hold, but right then, I saw it had been mine to grab all along. I started thriving in that clear-headed space. Without Amelia's non-stop circus pulling me off track, I could pour everything into my job. I snagged another promotion, not just 'cause I knew my tech stuff, but because I was stepping up, owning it, showing grit. The folks at work picked up on it too. Gone was that shaky guy I used to be, swapped out for this steady, quiet sureness. Thinking back, I could spot all those warning signs I'd blown past with Amelia, and I swore I'd never let M slide again. Her stabbing me in the back had damn near crushed me, but it taught me to know my own worth and draw some hard lines. I got it now. Trust isn't something you just hand out, it's gotta be earned, and putting myself first. That's not greedy, it's a must. That old bitterness didn't have a grip on me anymore, instead, I was thankful for the hard knocks that made me tougher. The dude who used to eat disrespect and keep his mouth shut. He was long gone, replaced by a guy who knew what he brought to the table and wasn't about to settle for scraps. One evening, I was kicking back on my porch, watching the sky light up with streaks of orange and pink, and I let a little grin sneak out. Life wasn't some picture-perfect dream, but it was mine, and that was plenty. For the first time in ages, what's ahead looked big, bright, and full of chances just waiting for me. This was my do-over, a shot to live for me, to grab the freedom I'd busted my ass to claim. Looking over my shoulder at it all, I could finally see what that journey really was, a brutal, messy stretch that flipped my whole world around for the better. I'd figured out what trust really meant, not just with other people, but with myself. Self-respect. That's a line in the sand you don't cross, and moving on didn't mean erasing what happened, it meant growing from it. There were days that betrayal felt like it'd bury me, but those same lows hammered out a strength I didn't even know I had in me. Now, standing clear of it all, I felt like I'd won, not because I beat Amelia, but because I'd beat the old me, the guy who doubted himself, ignored the signs, and gave up too much. As I wrapped up that part of my story, I did it with a heart full of thanks for the freedom, the growth, and all the wide open roads still out there. I lifted my glass to the still night and grinned. Life's pretty damn sweet.